Welcome everyone to this sacred conversation. I'm Chantal and I'm a psychotherapist and Reiki master, and I've been really enjoying bringing this back alive again and bringing these most amazing women, so far it's been women, back into having a sacred conversation. And today we're going to be talking with Carmel Murphy, who I've known for a while. Welcome today.
Thank you, and thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. And as I was asking Carmel beforehand what we were going to talk about and who she is, so I'm going to share my impression, but I'm going to allow her then to bring it in, because sometimes words can change things, you know, or I can interpret a different way. And what I'm wanting with these conversations for all of you beautiful people watching is to know that you are unique. It doesn't need to be perfect. And this is what this is about. It's raw. So she's a communication queen. She is the communication queen, I should say. And I love, I've known you for a long time now. We've known each other in and out of our lives. And also physically, because Carmel and I live in the same city, which is really lovely, because most of us know each other on Facebook or social media or through YouTube or whatever it might be. Anyhow, she said to me, Carmel said to me, she used to work in hospitality and just knew something had to change because it wasn't really sitting right with you. So you dabbled in different things before you got here, okay? And you had to segue in and out. And then something happened in your life that changed you to get really into marketing and to focus on this. Welcome, and let's start the conversation.
Thank you so much. Where do we start? When I was young.
That's exactly right.
Thank you so much. And it's always interesting to hear what other people see your life as, because I think we always have this internal dialogue. To us, we're presuming people can hear it yelling out, but it's not true. And it's that sometimes that damning voice, sometimes it's because something that's happened, or, you know, it can be a lot that's going on in your head, that it's like the proverbial duck, you know, it's like we're swimming on the top and underneath these bloody feet are going like this. And when we hear somebody else say, hey, you did this and this, we kind of go, oh, I did, but I didn't realize, A, people noticed, or B, that it meant anything to them, because we impact people all the time without realizing it. So, yeah, it's always interesting to hear that. So a little bit about me, as in I am from Ireland, as you can hear, even after 33 years in this beautiful country, I still have an accent. But I am the youngest daughter of five daughters in my parents' house. And you know how small a house is, but you don't realize how small it is till you go back as an adult. And in recent years, my parents passed away, so we had to sell the house. I was literally bored in the house. After my dad had actually built on and put extra bedrooms on, so we had 2 bedrooms. They only had one when they moved in, and all of this stuff. When we went to sell the house, it was 156 square meters. That was after all the additions. So to give you an idea of just how close we kind of lived in. But yeah, worked in hospitality all my life. And I used to think it was good old fashioned Irish hospitality. But the truth was, I just loved being with people. And I suppose I was a people pleaser as well, although some people, namely my sisters, might disagree with that. But I loved because it was different every day. I'm an explorer. I love things different. And fast track to, you know, had children, got married, well, had a child, then got married, then had another child, and moved to Australia. I always, again, that explorer thing. So I moved to Australia with 2 kids and my ex-husband. We had another child here, but I still always worked in hospitality. And as my kids got older and marriages break down, and I was a single mom for years, and then it's like, well, hang on, something, you know, I moved up in hospitality. I was in management. I was in upper management. I was a trainer. And, you know, from the outside world, it would all look perfect or great. But internally, it was like, what the bloody hell's wrong with me? Why haven't I made my marriage work? I'm in this job. I hate it, but I can't leave this job because how can I support my children? This isn't how I thought my life was going to be. But, you know, it's like, you feel as if you're the only one.
Yes.
You're the only one. And we get very me-centric to ourselves. And that's not wrong. It's just where you're at in that moment. We get very, you know, nobody loves me. I want to go and eat worms. That's probably and that used to be one of my favorite songs, you know, everybody loves me, everybody hates me. I think I'll go and eat worms. That was kind of my theme song for many years. And as a youngest daughter, as much as my sisters would tell you I was spoiled rotten, I was blah blah blah, I always felt like I didn't belong.
Yes.
Because they had done everything before me. So there was nothing new I could do. So I was always trying to find my place, which could have been perceived as a bit argumentative at times. But anyway, but it was actually, in hindsight, it was me just trying to, like, I now know I definitely have a strong exploration in me. So I was an explorer, but I didn't know where to explore. I didn't know what to do. So it ended up with, look, I won't even go into some of the stuff from my childhood, because it ended up with, which was quite common in Ireland, like abuse, sexual abuse, and things like that. But of course, isn't that normal? You know, you think.
Yeah.
But you sometimes think it's shrouded with some secrecy, but there has to be something wrong with me. And one of my big things was, again, I'm able to talk about this now in hindsight, in retrospect, because I couldn't at the time.
Yes.
But there was a part of me, I felt loved when I was being what we classify as abuse. I was treated gently. Well, I now know I was well groomed. So I had a huge guilt about what's wrong with me. These people are all talking about abuse as I got older. What's wrong with me? I liked it. I was ashamed to admit that for many, many years. Now, it's not that I shout it from the rooftops, but I would admit it now. But I only share this with you as in what's going on in your head.
Yeah.
So I use the word damaged, and I don't believe it is damaged, because I believe everything happens for a reason. But at that time, I felt damaged. And I thought there was something wrong with me, that, you know, that I would do this. And then that became craving people's attention. How can I be seen?
Yes.
How can I be seen? All the time. So again, retrospectively, a lot of things I did or didn't do were because I just wanted somebody to see me, not to see the facade that we just talked about, that perception. I wanted them to see me. But then, of course, a fear of, if they actually saw the real me, they wouldn't like me.
Yes.
Yeah. So what a great place to work. Hospitality. Oh my God. You can go out and pretend to be the Joker. You can do whatever. And queen of the 2-minute conversations. Oh yeah, that's great. I'll fix that. I'll just go over here. So I found it quite difficult to have deep conversations with people because it became a habit. I'd have a 2-minute conversation. Even now, and you know me now, I can be very socially awkward at times because I kind of go, oh, no, I don't know what to talk to them about. It's an old habit. So that was kind of just to give an insight into who I was. So I looked great on the outside and everyone thought I had it all together, but inside I wasn't. So job-wise, I was afraid to leave my job. I worked in one job that the boss used to sack me every 3 or 4 months. And he was a bit of a heavy drinker. And then he'd ring me and he'd say, are you coming into work? I said, you sacked me 2 days ago. Did I?
Sorry.
That's okay. That was the story. But that was quite stressful because, like, why would you keep going back to that job? I mean, I think the guy did it to me 4 or 5 times because I didn't feel good enough to do anything else. And how would my children survive if I did? Like, I was just stuck and feeling. But as things got a bit better, then I went, well, okay. I actually was a state manager of a recruitment company at this stage. And I was like, that's great. I could do this. There was a challenge. There was the exploring, but now I'm doing it. And I'm stressed and I don't want to do it anymore. What do I do? Yeah. And I actually decided to leave. And I was looking, well, I love working with people. What can I do working with people? I found coaching. I can talk to people and get paid for it. Are you joking? Sign me up. I'm there.
Yes.
Because, of course, we hear the promises that are sold to you. And as an explorer, you're hearing this, everything will be all right. You've been through so much stuff. You'll be able to help other people. My couldn't help myself at the time, but I thought I could. Because I would have snapshots of powerful conversations with people and they'd say, you're so inspiring, or, oh my God, you made a difference in my life, or whatever. I'm like, did I? Wasn't that just normal? Because it was my normal. I didn't see good, bad, right or wrong. So I did coaching. We did a lot of travel. It was over in the Eastern States. I was traveling over there. I was coming back. I was doing a lot of study. Then I did NLP, and like, it was very stressful, and obviously it was very expensive. So I had to keep a job while I was doing it. But I was sold all the promises. And it's not that it's bad to these people that sold me the promise. I bought into them, hook, line, and sinker, because I wanted somebody to see me. Remember that theme that was running through?
Yeah.
So I studied that. And look, I even became a mentor and a facilitator for the school I was doing it. And I did have some clients, and I was getting great feedback, but I found that I actually couldn't make it into a full business. I definitely couldn't support myself in it. So something had to change, and we go through a lot of bumpy bits, but I eventually discovered through working with a mentor that I actually couldn't market myself. That was the problem.
Okay.
And if I didn't know how to market myself, well, I didn't have a business. I had just a very expensive hobby, and that was debilitating. I'd spent thousands. I had flown all over the country. I had told people what an amazing coach I was going to be. So I was filled with shame that I had to go back to a job again.
Yes. Yes.
And it was like only for the support I had around me and mentors and coaches and that, and went, okay, if we are going back to here, and it's never going back, by the way, never, ever, you're never going back, and you're never starting from scratch. You're starting simply from where you are. But I felt it was going back. I went, okay, what's this thing about marketing? I kind of dug my heels in and went, well, bugger this. So I started to study marketing, but I was still working full time. You know, kids were older, so I didn't have that as much. But there was still that running theme of, oh my God, I'm never going to make this work. There's something wrong with me, blah, blah, blah. And then at this stage, I was working as a regional manager for a restaurant chain. So I traveled, I looked after Western Australia, South Australia, and the Northern Territory at the time. And I always remember I was in Adelaide. So my sister, I had this one sister here in Perth, 5 years older than me. And she was getting some tests done. She had had cancer when she was in her late 20s. She had Hodgkin's disease. And they realized as time went on that the radiation she had way back then had actually damaged a valve in her heart. That's what they were really. So she was going for some more tests, and she had just had an operation to repair this valve. So we were ringing her, whatever. She's going to get more tests. She's still feeling out of breath. And I remember standing in the street in Adelaide when she rang me to give me the results of these tests. And the results were that she had stage 4 lung cancer. And I remember literally, it can bring me back right now to that moment in that street on the phone and saying, I'll try not to swear when I say it, but I actually said, I will not be in another state when somebody rings me to tell me my sister's dead. I won't. So she was given 12 to 18 months to live. We had 15 months of her, the gift of her. But in that time, you know, I came back to Perth shortly after that, and there was a lot of stuff went on in it because she had had the heart operation. During her treatment, she ended up having a stroke as well, so she had to go into rehabilitation to find out how to walk again. There was funny bits in it. I became the joker, very much my way of dealing with it. But I saw someone in pain that everyone was going, you okay, you okay, you okay. And she was such a fun person. So I used to come in with the inappropriate comments and everything that people would look at me going, what the hell? But she would pee in herself laughing. I just became that person. The first thing she wanted to do was to go to my parents in Ireland to tell them face to face that she was dying. So we had to get on a plane to go to Ireland. So her twin sister lived in Melbourne at the time, still does actually. So we all decided to fly. Now, It's okay for us deciding to fly. There was no restrictions or anything at this stage, but somebody with lung cancer cannot just get on a plane.
Mm.
So I took over the application of getting her on, and it was a nightmare.
Right.
Took us weeks. And then they'd refuse, and then they'd say no, and then a doctor's letter, and then she'd have to have oxygen, so she had to go into first class, so she'd have to be upright, she had to be able to walk 100 meters. Like, it was, I remember sitting crying because they'd ring me and say, no, we're not letting her on. And I'm going to my partner going, how can I ring my sister and tell her that they're not going to let her see her parents? Like, it was, eventually, thank goodness, through this, that, and the other, we got to go on the plane. And myself and my other sister, so there was my sister that was ill, and her husband, and her twin, and myself. And we're getting on the plane, well, booking our flights, and my sister insisted that she would pay the difference between a regular flight and the first class, so that we all went into first class. So it was quite, she said, I want to create an experience. She was amazing. So we did, went to Ireland, had to tell our parents. I'll never forget telling my parents, both in their 80s at the time. I sat behind my dad. Now, there's a photo that I actually have on Facebook. This is a tiny house. This is the tiny little lounge room. So there's 5 sisters, mom and dad, and a few nieces and nephews. So we're standing on steps and stairs. And I was sitting behind my dad. And I just remember he was leaning forward, you know, intently listening, because his hearing wasn't great. And my mom, I was watching my mom. And when she told him, I just remember his whole body going. Because my dad was very much 5 daughters, very protective. He would do anything for his girls, you know, he wanted to fix anything. So it was quite traumatic. And then we had to get her back on the plane, which was the same process again. They wouldn't just say yes. We had to go through it all again. I remember the poor doctor in Ireland. We went in and I said, right, you have to take her, you have to walk her around the car park for 100 meters, you have to write a letter, and you have to sign this. And my sister's going to the doctor, I'm really sorry. And he said, that's okay. People deal with grief in a different way. I was like, we have to get her what she perceived as home. We have to get her home. So we did that, and she never went back to Ireland again after that. But once we got home, then my mom was ill. And we thought my mom was gone. So the rest of us flew back to my mom in that October. And my mom came out of the death ward, as you do. Again, inappropriate humour seems to be my thing, but it's also expected. So my poor mom, I always remember, she said, it sounds strange, but she said, why won't God take me? And I'm going, because you're talking to the wrong fella. But as inappropriate as it is, but my mom even on her deathbed laughed, like, and she didn't, she came good after that. But I was like, you know, but that was my way of dealing with it, deflected. The truth be known underneath it, although it might come across as funny, there was a deflection there. I don't really want to talk about the elephant in the room, that I'm in pain, that you're in pain, that we're grieving. Let's just look at the light side of it. That's how I dealt with stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my sister. So my sister went through a huge process. As I said, it was up and down. And near her, the end, I remember going to Thailand on a holiday. We had booked it ages before. And I was going, no, I won't go. I won't go. My sister and my brother-in-law said, you will go. But I was only there 2 days. And I went to my partner, I have to come back. I can't. Yeah. I can't be here. And I went back. And the first thing she said to me is, she said, you can't go away anymore, because every time you go away, I get sick, because she was getting sicker. At this time, I had given up my job because I couldn't be interstate. So I gave it up. I did a bit of casual work here and there. There's no way I could just, I was still doing coaching and still, but I couldn't go big into marketing or coaching or whatever, because I didn't know from one day to the next how my sister would be. And I was going to have no regrets of this journey. No. And I didn't. I, you know, sometimes went to treatments with her, sometimes did other stuff, whatever. So I really am thankful that I had the flexibility. I could do that. It wasn't easy. I was moving house at the same time.
As you do.
Which is another big thing and all that. But anyway, look, eventually the time came that my sister passed. She had palliative care at home. And she, last 17 hours of her life, we were all in the house, just taking turns and sleeping and things like that. And then she passed away. I will never forget the moment she passed away till I die. As the youngest sister, like we knew, and her sister-in-law was brilliant. She was a nurse. She kept saying, this is what might happen next. So, you know, we were kept informed. But I'll never forget, Chantal, the moment she died. Like, literally, she died and everyone went to message everyone to tell them. And I just sat there and you can feel her going cold. And I just started saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. As if I said I'm sorry enough, that she'd come back to life. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Can you do that? As if it's all a big mistake. It was, yeah. But it brought up for me then is that's what we do in life. We pretend it's not happening. We put a mask on, we put a face on and pretend that these emotions aren't happening, and we shove them down. But eventually they're going to come up like a bloody beach ball. Mm. It was after that, and there was a whole process of grieving, and I'm so grateful for all the coaching, all the NLP, all those people I had around me, because I navigated that differently than I'm sure I ever would have before that. Mm-hmm. That those tools gave me, like, it wasn't easy. I'm not saying it's easy and here's the book of grief and just do those steps and everything's perfect, because it's not. And it hits people differently. But I found strategies and things to use in it, and I truly allowed myself to feel my feelings, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
But I made a decision somewhere there, you know what? Because she was, gosh, a year and a half younger than I am right now.
Okay.
So I was 5 years younger than her. And I remember saying to myself, no more of this playing shit. Yeah. No more of this playing business. If I really want to be her age in 5 years' time and have made a difference in my life, it has to start now. I have to get serious about this stuff. And I don't want to work for that drunk that sacked me. I don't want to work for that person that makes me do whatever they want me to do. I want to help other people and I want to make a difference. Well, in order to do that, I have to be able to market myself. And through that, then I got more and more serious about marketing. I had a good few things in my tool belt, and I knew video was one of the best ways to talk to people. So I started just studying more and more about video. How do we get our message across? How can I help other people to get it? If you don't want to work with me, that's fine. If you do want to work with me, come this way, I'll show you. But underneath it all, it doesn't matter whether it's video or marketing. There's a person running the business. And the person running the business, 90% of my client work is working with the person. The business part, the structure, really read a book, go onto YouTube. Like, all the steps are there if you want to find them. Yes, you work with somebody else and we can shortcut it for you. But it's the person behind the business. It's the beliefs that we formed as that child that was groomed, for example. It's the beliefs we formed because we've had some trauma in our lives. Yes. It could be a car accident. It can be anything. This is the thing. Your trauma is not any worse than my trauma, and vice versa. It's to that person in that moment, it has left an imprint. And then it comes up to their grown business. Well, your business doesn't grow because you don't believe you bloody deserve it somewhere. Well, let's open up and look at that. So now I find, I'm not perfect, by the way, guys. Let me tell you, I'm not perfect ever. But I find now that I'm much easier able to flip things. Even when it came to do eulogy for my sister, my brother-in-law and my nephews were beside themselves. They were going, this information, this. What I had learned in hospitality was how to detach, how to take the emotion out of something, which can be a gift if you do it momentarily, just not if you don't live there. I was able to detach enough to say, okay, what does somebody listening to this need to know? And I put it in a structure. I ended up doing the same because 6 weeks after my beautiful sister passed away, and I'm ready to market everything, and we got a phone call that my dad was dying. So all over to Ireland, and I had a white cape. I was going to rescue my dad. I'm going to fix him. They have him in a hospital. He hates hospitals. I'll bring him home and get him palliative care. What are you talking about? Because even though I was the youngest, I was the bossiest. Well, we went home, we went to the hospital, and then we spoke to the palliative care nurses, and they basically said he won't make it home in the ambulance. Now, my dad was talking and everything at the time. He was going, "Get me out of here, Carmel." I said, "Dad, give me an hour, I'll get you." He said, "An hour, me arse." He said, "Me clothes are in the cupboard, get me out now." And they said to me, his kidneys and everything are already failing. He was in anger. And we went to see my mom in a nursing home. Of course, she got a fright then. She said, "He must be dying if you're here." And then by the time we went back to the hospital, he was already on morphine and on a mask and unconscious. And we sat with him all that night, delirious. We were just traveling from Australia. We were laughing at inappropriate things at 2 o'clock in the morning. It was just ridiculous. And he passed away. And I ended up doing his eulogy as well. And in Ireland, in the church, they kind of nearly give you a standing ovation for it. It's like, what? It's a bit weird. But my dad passed away in the February, and he was buried on my parents' wedding anniversary, which was the 15th of February. Yeah. So we went back to Australia. My mum was 90 later that year, and I said to my sister in Melbourne, I went, "I've just got a funny feeling. If we don't go back, we might regret it." So we went back for my mum's 90th birthday. You know, yay, surprise. Blah. Came back, and we went back again in February because my mum passed away the date after my dad, and ended up being buried on their wedding anniversary 12 months later.
Oh, wow.
And in Ireland, in our local church, they don't allow you to play any recorded music. It has to be the choir or something like that. And you know, they pushed me for, "Can you ask the priest this? Can you ask the priest that?" And he wouldn't let us do it for my dad's funeral, but for my mom's, I found this beautiful song, and it's called "Together Again." No more tears, no more anything. And I begged him to let us play, and he did. So as my mom's casket was coming out of the church, that beautiful song "Together Again" was played on their 65th wedding anniversary. Yeah, pretty special. Look, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is not to say, "Oh, poor Carmel, you had so much going on then," but we all had something going on. Every person you meet has. This facade that you see at the front, this angry person that's talking to you, is because they're scared inside and they just don't have the tools to deal with it. So I find now, whether I'm dealing with somebody in business, or I'm dealing with a mum, or I'm dealing with a dad, or maybe even a brother and sister that have some conflict, you look past that behavior and actually start looking at what's inside. Because we all have the opportunity to grow and evolve and be whoever we want to be.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm just going to sit for a moment because I don't want words to, again, glib words, just to the power of your story and how you've expressed it. Thank you. And it's showing people, well, this is my reflection back, and anyone who wants to then comment eventually is, oh, we can have trauma upon trauma. I felt shame because I had similar and different experiences, but for a while there I kept thinking, is there something, coming back to what you're saying, is there something wrong with me? Because I can't seem to get my life, because there was this and then there was this, and it felt like it just kept going.
Yeah. We catastrophize.
Exactly right. And because of the childhood, well, my experience was because in our childhood, it felt we're always in drama. Yeah. So not to know how to not be in drama becomes, you catastrophize, like you said, because you get so used to catastrophizing.
You get addicted to it.
Exactly.
You actually get addicted to it. It's like a drug.
Exactly right. So it's learning. And I can always remember my mum saying, when she first left my dad, living in England at the time, came back to Australia, because finally she realised she needed to get out after 25 years of violence and abuse and all that. Then she said they call it sick excitement in the program, because you get used to, because finally you got what you want, right? She got out, she came home. Okay, she had to deal with all that. But then suddenly it's like, okay, what now? Because you're no longer sitting there in this high alert of what's going to happen next. So like you said, it's that unraveling, and to hold. And I think the other thing I really related to is the Joker, when my father died unexpectedly in Germany on a business trip. They found him in bed because he didn't get up. my brother and I, like, we flew over, and some of the jokes we made, people, you could see them in the plane looking at us like, you really? Because they were pretty, like you said, they're off. They really are offbeat, aren't they? Yeah. And you're sitting there, but you all think it's in that moment, it's hysterical.
Because I think what your mother or father would say.
That's right.
In that moment. And
right.
To this day, I'm sure when my dad was masked up and everything and unconscious, like my sister had a certain behavior and I went, oh my God, she's making a show of us. Will I tell her to get out? And to this day, my dad's head just went like that. Just like, as if, because we would have joked like that with him, going, oh my God, look at her, Daddy, can you tell her to get out? And it was as if he was saying no. But I think just to go back to what you're saying, like trauma upon trauma, it impacts our mental health. And I don't think it's talked about enough. Like, it's kind of, I know in Ireland, where I'm from, we had a hospital called Newcastle Hospital, which was, for all intents and purposes, a mental health disabilities hospital. But it was an inappropriate joke to everyone, oh, just cart her off to Newcastle. And if you'd been in Newcastle, oh my God, people would literally walk the other side of the street because they presume you were schizo, as they'd say, or whatever. And it became a stigma of being afraid of, so you would never admit, maybe I'm suffering a bit, maybe I have these thoughts in my head that aren't right, maybe I have some mental health that isn't in balance. It became a dark secret. You're not allowed to talk about it. I'm so grateful now to hear people like yourself and other people that bring it out to the fore and go, you know what, we all have a bit of mental health stuff going on, and it's not bad.
Exactly. And it's okay. That's exactly right. Taking away the shame and the stigma. So thank you. And that's why I really appreciated your story, is that and again, that we can share, we can talk. There's nothing, coming back to you, there's nothing wrong with us.
Nothing.
Because even in that space, there's nothing wrong with you. It's how you come out and how you do it, and learning, like you said, how you deal with things. And look at what you've done. You've created this most incredible business. So we're sort of coming to the end of our, oh my God, I say this with every conversation. I could keep going because I just love and hearing your story, because I think it's so important to share. What last thing would you like to say? Now, before we go, I also wanted to say to people, what came to mind was, because we are also talking about people, about running a business, but I felt also we can use what you're saying in a career, or if you want to be on stage or anything, because it's, again, how do you market yourself in a way that feels comfortable for you?
Yes. And it has to be you can pretend. We have to get this uncomfortable. Everything is not just roses, and you have to kind of face your fears a little bit. But if you're not eventually loving what you're doing or comfortable, if your dream is to get up on stage, well, you have to get uncomfortable and practice speaking. But if you never want to be on a stage in your life, why the hell are you going to speaker training? Do you know what I mean? So find something that you're passionate about and that you want to be able to do or help or showcase, whatever that is, and then make it happen. And one of my biggest things that I've always not done, and it's still a challenge, I used to decide to actually lock myself away mentally rather than impose myself on other people if I was feeling down. Worst thing in the world to do. I had a client that was doing the same thing, and I said, don't think you're putting your stuff on me, because you're not. I don't have your emotional investment into it, but I can sometimes clear the way a little bit so you can see a bit of hope outside it.
Love it. And that's a beautiful way to end. Exactly. And that's what you can do, is open up a little bit, have hope, and then that little bit of light can start shining through. Oh my God, thank you so much, Carmel. That is perfect. Now, just because we're coming to the end, where can they contact you? As well, everyone, I will be putting the links in the description. So
on Facebook, of course, on LinkedIn, just type in Carmel Murphy, on YouTube as well. And I'm always happy to support and answer questions. And just hit me up. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, Carmel. I really appreciated that. Thank you. Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. Remember, any comments, if you feel triggered, reach out to anyone, including us. Thank you.